first chief Washington correspondent, Blake Burman, at the White House. It was almost an exciting afternoon.
Almost, I guess. Yeah, this was supposed to be a relatively light day over here at the White House, Leland. When you look at the president's official schedule, it was being briefed in the morning, the PDB, the Presidential Daily Brief, which happens every day, or give or take. Then there was one public event in which the cameras would be let in, and that was it. And then all of a sudden, the president made that comment that there was going to be a major press conference later in the day. I'll be honest, I was across the street grabbing lunch real quick because we weren't expecting much over here. And I looked down and I said, whoa, the president said what? And immediately, started doing what we do, which is, pick up the phone, fire off the email to the network, call and say, hey, what are we going to do with the cameras? Where are we going to be? We had some experience with this. For those of us that covered the Trump White House daily like I did, this was not infrequent for the president to just say, hey, press conference, at least in this case, the White House staff for Trump, they didn't know about it, but there would be a press conference later in the day. What happened this time around, the president made that comment saying major press conference, and it turned out about 10 minutes later that was not the case. When I talked to a White House official, they said, no, not happening, and thus the clarification from the White House, they said that he was talking about that interview that he ended up giving later in the day.
Yeah, one thing he certainly would have been asked about had he had a press conference today was the border. And speaking of that, his DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was on the border today, and he got asked some pretty tough questions. Take a listen.
The border is not open. It has not been open, and it will not be open subsequent to May 11th. And the smugglers who exploit vulnerable migrants are spreading misinformation. They are spreading false information, lies, in a way to lure vulnerable people to the southern border.
There's been a lot of criticism by Mayorkas. I'm wondering how much of a political liability the White House views the border, in so much as they don't seem interested in any way in changing the policies that have led to the result that we have seen on the southern border, begging the question whether what's happening on the border is sort of the effective result of a policy that they like or the failure of policy. How do they view it?
Well, it's interesting because they put out a memo today that was fired off to us, to many of the media. The White House is trying to turn this, trying to put this on congressional Republicans, saying they are not being as serious with the border as the White House is, talking about funding levels and some of what Republicans in Congress are trying to do. It's part of the political game, Leland, that takes place here in Washington on an issue. You'd almost try to turn it on its head. We've been asking the White House, I have at least for months in the White House briefing, whether or not they need to change their posture along the southern border. The president has made some changes here in the last week or so leading up to the end of Title 42. But, the White House continues to be asked whether or not there's operational control at the border. They continue to say there is. And you saw the DHS secretary down there on the border today say it's not open. The reality is it's something they are dealing with and have to deal with day in and day out.
Yeah, and the reality is hundreds of thousands of people come into the United States illegally and are released into the United States every month. Blake Burman at the White House, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.